Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm continuing my four-part series, welcoming some guests who are speaking at our live event in Austin. I'm welcoming them here in my four-part series on our channels right here so that you can feel a little more comfortable and know who they are before you see them on stage at Content Hacker. Today, you're here to learn how to grow a six-figure income stream around AI consulting with Stephanie Nivinskus, agency owner. So, I want to welcome everyone again. I'm John Pratt, head of success as well as strategist here at Content at Scale. I'm doing that series right here on our channel to give you really some inspiration and motivation with these guests. So I want to help you think in a whole new way in terms of like AI and how to leverage that for your business. So each of these guests, they are speaking at Content Hacker Live, our event live in Austin this March. So check out contenthacker.com/event. That's contenthacker.com/event to learn more about that. But right now, you are here for how to grow a six-figure income stream around AI consulting. So let's welcome an extraordinary marketer with over 2 decades of experience. Very awesome. The founder of Sizzleforce Marketing. She's worked on marketing campaigns for the NFL, Quicksilver, Starbucks, and much more. So here to tell us how to grow a six-figure income around AI consulting. Stephanie, welcome.
Hey, thank you, John. So glad to be here. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. We're getting some comments of where people are from. I see. I saw the word Guatemala in one of our usernames
Oh,
here
wow.
commenting. So looks like they're joining us from there. Let us know in the comments, where you're joining us from, and drop some questions. Feel free to drop questions throughout the duration of this live chat here, and we will get to some Q&A. But yeah, Stephanie, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be here. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Love it. We I had some questions prepared that you may or may not know about some of them. And
Okay.
but basically the overarching theme of my questions is how did you I know you have a background or rather an education in journalism as well as a big background in marketing. How did you pivot? And this might be like a too huge of a question to answer even in 1 hour, but to pivot from that to AI, what prompted that, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Okay. So I have a big background in all of that. To bring the listeners up to speed, I got a degree in journalism 3 weeks after I graduated college, way back in the dark ages in 1995. I got a job working for a newspaper, which used to be cool. Okay, used to be cool, pre-internet. Anyways, it's been almost 3 decades, actually, John. 28 years now that I've been doing this.
Awesome.
So pivoting into AI, I think I learned about AI with relation to content and copywriting about 4 years ago at a traffic and conversion conference.
Mhm.
And honestly, at first I saw it and I turned my nose up at it and I said, "This is stupid. It's terrible. I can't do a good job." And um, fast forward to when ChatGPT came out. And uh, again, when I think I looked at it 3 days after it came out, was when I first experimented with it.
Yeah.
And I turned my nose up at it again. And I was like, this can't write well. This isn't any good. Well, that lasted until the middle of January. So that was, I think it was December 3rd through the middle of January. And then all of a sudden, I was having these flashbacks of when the internet became a mainstream thing, which was at the beginning of my career. And I was like, oh my gosh, the buzz around this it's so noisy and there's so much interest and so many people are experimenting. I can't turn my nose up anymore at this.
Mm-hmm.
I need to dig in and figure out what this is all about. So it was more out of I felt like a professional necessity. It was absolutely agitated at a very high level when I started getting calls from long-time clients saying, we heard about this thing called ChatGPT. Can we just use that to write our blogs or
Wow.
write our Facebook ads or whatever it is? And I was like, hang on a minute. So I made the transition in February, and I went cold turkey, 180-degree pivot. And I just said, you know what? The writing is on the wall. It smells so much of like when the internet came aboard, and so many people were like, I don't need to learn all that. Okay, well, duh. Like you look at it now and it sounds ridiculous. Like, how could someone say they don't need to learn that? But they did. Tons of people said that. Tons of people snubbed it. And here we are. And so in February, I made a very hard right turn, redirected my entire staff, and we went all in on AI.
Huge. You mentioned they came to you. Your client came to you. So two things. You had the benefit of 4 years into this. So you had like the, what am I trying to say? Like the perspective, right? Whereas I just started, thinking really heavily about AI only November 2022. So I imagine a lot, well, of course, a lot has changed since then, but a lot has changed since 2018 when you first were getting into it to 2022. And then of course, November 2022 hits and you're like, okay, this is never going to be the same. What was it? First of all, your clients had the trust in you to call you and say, should I be using this alternative? Or was that
Yeah, and it was more than one.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 of them actually. And these are people that we had clients for, we'd been working with them for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they want your opinion on, hey, like, should I try this or am I going to get stuck in the mud when I try this? And should I just get you to do it for me instead? And wow, what were the changes that like the big changes from 2018 or so to that moment when you realized that you had to go all in AI and in tech and in adoption? Like what, or was it just the advent of ChatGPT that was like, boom, this is the moment?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, like I said, when I first explored it, it was it was in its infancy, not AI as a whole, because like literally it's really interesting to me actually, John. I was doing a study on this. AI seems like it's like so new to everybody, but it's actually been in development for almost 100 years.
Oh, geez,
which is crazy if you look at the history. But anyways, in 2018, I would say from a content and copy perspective, it was so much in its infancy. And the idea of training it to mirror your voice and your brand and, yada, yada, wasn't even on the table. Okay.
Yeah.
Then ChatGPT comes out, and that was, it really was the media buzz. The media buzz got so loud, so fast, and it was like triggering that memory. I was like, oh, I've lived through this before. Wait, I know what's coming.
Yeah. When I saw a similar thing, like in November, that same month, November 2022, it was for me, when I think it became, it came out, ChatGPT. I heard from one outlet that I trusted, like, about it, like, oh, this is huge, this will change the game, and no one realizes it. And then like the next day I heard it from somebody totally different. My wife is in some YouTube group that teaches you how to do YouTube and at a very high level, and they were saying it. They were sending out emails to their group, irregular emails like, hey, pay attention to this technology. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is fast, I better pay attention. And immediately I started messing around with ChatGPT, and of course, now we're here. Fast forward almost a year and a half now. And it's just been wild. You mentioned AI being almost, at least the thoughts and training behind it, almost 100 years old. That to me sounds like, and I see what you're saying there. To me, that sounds like a great, even like a pitch to get people to adopt AI. Like, look, I mean, it's 100 years old. Jump on now or get left behind. How do you sell AI? Or let me back up. do you sell people on AI, or are they already sold by the time they talk to you?
Oh no, well, both. Let me put it
Okay.
that way. Both. Yesterday I was talking with a client that had hired me for, just traditional copywriting and content prior to Chat GPT coming out. And
Hmm.
he got back in touch with me because he saw all the AI stuff that I'm doing, and he's really into technology, and he is likely going to engage with me in a new project. Okay. But he's already very technologically astute, and he gets excited and he's willing to take risks and all that. So, was it hard to sell him on it? No, not at all. He kind of sold himself.
Hmm.
However, that is certainly not the majority of people. And there are a lot of people that I have to educate and I have to persuade in a way where I'm showing them what is possible, um, but also acknowledging the inherent risks that come along with it
Hmm.
and addressing how we can proactively help them avoid falling into those potential risks and so on and so forth. I'm speaking at an event next week actually, and this, I would say 90% of the room is going to kind of be sitting back in their chairs with their arms crossed
Yeah.
on the defense, on the defense about this, because there's a lot of unknowns and it can be really scary for people who don't live in this world.
Yeah. You mentioned here's Julia, by the way, with some comments. She says
Hey, Julia.
clients that love that love experiencing new tech and more efficient processes are the best. Stephanie's right on, and that's not everyone, like you mentioned. What
Hmm.
are some of those? You mentioned uh, risks that, I mean, real risks, right? That people take on when they suddenly adopt AI without really knowing about it or learning about it first. What are some of those, like, are we talking pitfalls or like security risks, or what have you seen?
Yeah. Well, number one, the bias generated by it generated in a lot of content, right? I think a lot of people, for us as marketers or content writers that have been hearing a lot about this and giving this a lot of our attention over the past 15-ish months, we've heard a decent amount about this. So we're like aware. But is the marketplace in general aware of this? I don't think so. You know,
Hmm.
the rise of misinformation being spread through AI. Again, I think people have been sufficiently scared,
Hmm.
but they haven't been really educated in how can we identify it, what can we do to combat it, what security measures should we take in our own right in the age of voice cloning, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I have a somebody in my family who received one of those terrifying calls where it sounded like her child had been arrested
Wow.
and they were demanding $20,000. And she told me, and she's a smart, smart woman. And she told me it was one of the most terrifying moments of her life because it literally sounded exactly like her son. And their scheme was so strategically fleshed out, like on it to the point where they had a so-called attorney to talk to. They had phone numbers that you could call in the city with the right zip or the right area code
Whoa.
um, to call to facilitate this part and that part and the other part. And it's crazy. Only to find out that her son was just sleeping in. He's like a young
In
20
in the
something
house, or
sleeping
in
in.
his house.
Yeah, in his house.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's the only reason that, right? If he was on vacation or something or unreachable, they would
Yeah.
go another 1, 2, 3 days
Yep.
fully believing this because it's so convincing.
They actually had already contacted other people in the family and
Mm.
said, we need $20,000 and we need
Yeah.
it today
Yeah.
because he is in jail and we have to get him out. And he's a great kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. But when you get a call like that, yeah.
right. So we were all like, wait, what? Um, so that misinformation, and that the use of AI for really evil things, things like that, like that's an inherent risk. If you're even us right now, we're recording this. Anybody could take this recording and clone our voices.
Yeah, because we're training.
Yeah,
If in the wrong hands or the wrong purposes, they can take any really content that's on the internet and sort of use it as training data. Essentially, is that
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah. And then so what do you do with it? So like
mm-hmm.
security measures, like even in my own immediate family, if we ever get a call like that, we have a family password that everybody knows, that if something legitimate is happening where there's a legitimate emergency, we'll say, what's the password?
Mm-hmm.
And whoever's enduring the situation will say the password. And that is how we will know it's legitimate, as opposed to one of these fake calls.
That's huge. I've seen that before on. I think I was scrolling through Instagram, and one of those videos pops up about the true, these dangers, these risks, and that was their suggestion also, to have a password. You don't tell it to anybody. Maybe you meet personally, in person, and talk about the password, and then never basically talk about it again unless it's needed. Heaven
Mm-hmm.
forbid, right? Um,
Right.
I was just speaking of like scrolling through Instagram, social media, all this, putting AI off to the side, you still see all this like fake stuff. Like so much of what we're presented with seems like just misinformation or fake. But the commenters in social media, they think it's all real, whether it's a reenactment of some dangerous situation that's presented as real or whatever. So I can only imagine how when AI enters the chat, for lack of a better phrase, that could compound, this misinformation or even rhetoric or just tools to get you to do what people want you to do could be that could be a huge problem in the future if we're not careful,
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that pivot you made in 2022, or when your
Mm-hmm.
client called you, hey, what is this thing? Should I use this thing, ChatGPT?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the decisions you made at that point, and how did you build? I mean, you've built an entire platform on this now. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
were some of those? What does that look like, that process of building your business?
Okay, well, the first thing is just making the decision. Making the decision is huge in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
When you've been doing business a certain way for so many years, and it's what you're comfortable with, and it's what you've built out, it's what you've got all your processes and systems designed around. So, step one, making the decision.
Yeah.
Step two was really diving into education. So, I enrolled myself as well as my staff in several different training programs, and we went to the organizations that I had, long-term relationships with and trust. So, for example, for us, Digital Marketer is a company that we often lean on for our own training. And so when they offered in February of 2023 a course in learning I was like the first person to sign up,
Mm.
right? And then I had my staff take different courses too. We also went to through another program with somebody else who's actually going to be speaking at Content Hacker Live,
Mm-hmm.
and he had created something called a persona method, and I got the whole agency certified in his method. So step two was education.
Yeah.
Then I would say step three was really exploration, where we weren't just being told what was possible, but we were exploring it ourselves and trying to come up with our own discoveries. Step four was uh, refining what we were learning with processes and systems that were time tested prior to the use of AI. So, what I like to tell people is I train my copywriters, I train my AI the
Mm-hmm.
same way I train my human copywriters and content writers. So
Yeah.
the way I've trained people to do this work for 20 years, 28 years to be exact, right? I now train AI in the same way. And that is one of the things that helps us generate such awesome results, right? And then there's things like content at scale that make it so easy, right? So easy. So yeah, I would say this period of continually optimizing what we're learning with constant exploration every day, every single day. I'm reading new stuff about AI, trying the tools, exploring what works, what doesn't work for us
Mm-hmm.
and our clients, and and pushing boundaries and being like, you know what, can we do this with that? Oh no, that didn't work. That got jacked up. Or can we do this with this? Oh wow, look at that. That just totally enhanced the results. This is amazing.
Through that process, what how did Sizzleforce evolve? So like what did Sizzleforce look like before that versus after that evolution?
Okay, well, before we adopted AI, we were a traditional digital marketing agency. So we always specialized in copywriting and content development, and a lot of strategy as well. Those were kind of our zones that we lived in, and we just did it the old-fashioned way. If we wanted to write something, we researched stuff online, and then wrote from our brain, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And now we'll use AI a lot for ideation, right?
Yeah.
And so, and which was great because I felt like it brings in new perspectives. It brings in things that would not have come from my brain or my staff's brain. Sorry, I'm getting over a little sickness. I hope you can hear me okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Excuse me. But yeah, we're using AI for ideation, and then like when we're using tools like content at scale, I mean, it's just amazing. It's like you barely have to lift a finger with that tool, but there's other tools that we use where we now are, we're using it for ideation, but we're also using it to write first drafts of certain elements of pieces, um, and then kind of mixing and matching to see what fits together the best and produces the best result. And then we always layer everything that we do with human intelligence.
Okay, huge, right? Like at the end. So when you mentioned ideation with AI and then some content creation with AI, and then by the end of it, you said something important. You basically put the human back into it.
Yeah,
Um, what
always.
so yeah, that was my next question is like how often, right, do you do that? Like what would happen if you didn't do that? Is it just like creating this
Oh,
echo chamber on the internet of like the same old info?
yeah, I think that's part of the problem is you just become a parrot, right? Another person saying the same thing in a slightly different way that's not different enough to actually get noticed and
Mm-hmm.
stand out. So, by layering human intelligence, by layering human intelligence on it now, um, we are able to integrate like the personal stories, and we're able to integrate the um, that the passion that comes from the human about a topic, right? And really, really humanizing it.
Yeah. I we have a whole method at Content at Scale because when you use Content at Scale, you get an excellent draft out of AI, like better than you would from a human. And it's the first thing you see after you create content is so every time I create content, I'm over there looking and I see of course the draft, the SEO score, and the words I should use, the words I am using already, and to me at very very first glance it's like I should just publish this, but then I think, well, what else can I add to this, right? Because I'm the human, I'm the creator here in this process, even though AI is helping us. Let's make it even better, right? Bring it from even if that draft straight out of AI, I think my shirt says straight out of AI, even if that draft straight out of AI is like publish worthy, still I want to make it 110% before I ship it in that case, because I want to inject my own, experience, my own thoughts, my own even opinions, right? Especially in the intro. I want to help my audience get interested because clearly they Googled that keyword and they want more information. And so, yeah, for us on our end at Content at Scale, like we see way better results when you take that draft and you edit in your own right? Your own thing, your own secret sauce. And we call it the craft method. And there's a video about it for on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you know
about
what?
how to edit.
One thing on that, John, is I think that Content at Scale is a tool that leaves the fun part for the creatives. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think of it, anyone that's a content writer or a copywriter, right? We're storytellers at heart, right? We love to tell stories. Okay. Well, that's the one thing that the AI can only partially do, right?
Yeah.
The human brings in the real, true, powerful stories, right? And that's the fun part of what we do. So Content at Scale, it's like it does the research work for us. It drafts, stuff that is factually correct, backed up, and it's interesting. But we get to add that sizzle. We get to add the glitter on top with the personal stories that bring it home and make it perform better and really make people trust the content more. And it differentiates it, which is the biggest thing. So we don't sound like parrots.
Yeah. Yeah. Julia says, adding the human factor would love to hear Stephanie speak to her process, or if she uses or references our the craft framework that I spoke about. Yeah, that human factor. So this is something I too found out the exact same thing probably back in November 2022 is when I was iterating on ChatGPT. A lot of people were freaking out back then about AI. Like it was like full on from November to like February. Everyone was like freaking out. And hey, rightfully so. One thing I discovered pretty quickly, like 6 hours in of practicing on ChatGPT, is look, it's not about what AI can do now. We all knew that was coming, right? The robots are going to do the boring stuff. It's now about I totally agree with you. It's about what only we can bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And now how quickly we can do that. Because in Content at Scale, for example, the draft is done. I don't have to go research for 5 hours, and think about SEO, right? As a creator, it's like my brain, when I'm thinking of like logical things like SEO and maybe some less logical things like creative or storytelling, I don't want to run both brains at the same time. I want to add what only I can do. And I think you nailed that with what AI is capable of. It reveals what we do.
I have a framework that I feel like really complements the craft framework.
Oh, yeah.
And I call it the human framework.
Okay, the human framework.
Yeah, and this was designed for use. You can use it with Content at Scale, or you can use it in whatever you're using. So there's a little bit of a crossover with what Content Scale already does in step 2, but I'll tell you the steps. Okay, so it's the human framework, spells out human, HUMAN. H stands for honor authenticity, right? And you honor authenticity by infusing your content with your real life stories, with your compassion, with your creativity, with your wits, and with your enthusiasm. Step 2, and this is what Content at Scale does really well, but utilizing Google's EAT framework, intentionally incorporating expertise, experience, authoritativeness, trustworthiness into the content, right? Step 3 is minimizing purple prose and bias, right? Purple prose is, referring to that style of writing that some AIs, I would not say Content at Scale does this, but some AIs get like so overly elaborate and ornate and flowery in the content that it spits out, right? Clarity trumps creativity or cleverness every single time when it comes to
100%.
conversions, right? So, also minimizing bias, ensuring that the content is, culturally sensitive and void of harmful narratives and stereotypes. Step 4 is accelerating understanding of your content by integrating unique images and videos and infographics and carousels and memes. And step 5 is navigating areas for improvement by using an AI content detector that also reviews grammar and spelling and readability. Again, I think that's built into content at scale because the team over there, you guys are all geniuses. But it's not built into other platforms. So the human framework is my process for making sure what I do using AI is indeed humanized.
I was just doing a cursory search over here off on my other screen about your framework. Is there a link I can share? I know I'm putting you on the spot there, but is there a link I can share about that framework?
Okay, you want to know something true? I honestly
Okay.
haven't published it yet because I'm speaking on it next week.
Okay, then keep it secret.
But
Keep it secret.
I will put something out and I'll give you that link, but I don't have it right now.
Perfect. Well, yeah, when you develop it, I know it's probably developed already, but when you publish the framework after speaking, let us know and I can help our audience, understand like, look, I mean, just because AI created it for you doesn't mean you're done, right? So use this
Right.
framework.
Well,
Yeah,
and I
that'll
think
be
that
huge.
the way that it walks alongside the craft framework, I think they're like BFFs holding hands.
Yeah. Maybe I can
Yeah.
make a meme or something of
Yeah,
human framework and craft,
we should. We
walking
should.
off into the sunset or the
I love
sunrise,
it.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. BFFs. Truly, they complement each other. Um, when I want to talk about more like you're converting people into leveraging AI. So in terms of AI consulting, what are the crazy things you've seen people try to use AI to do, and then you have to sort of talk them off the ledge, like, no, let's leverage it this way. Is that a thing, or do people generally know how to use it?
No, I would say people generally do not have any clue how to use it.
Huge.
um, Crazy things they try to do. I would say, I don't know if crazy is the right adjective. I think I would say more they just don't know better, right?
Okay,
But
maybe aspirational things. Yeah.
yeah, it's like they get in there and they're like, okay, well, I tried to use, whatever you can name the platform of your choice, right? ChatGPT, Bard, whatever. I tried to use it and it didn't write anything that was right about my company at all. And I'm like, so what did you teach it? What did you tell it? Well, I told it that I own an art store downtown. And I'm like, is that it? Yeah. Well, how is it going to know anything
How's it
if you
gonna
don't
know?
train
Yeah.
it? I mean, it's like, yeah,
It's
so
supposed to know your inventory and
I,
the layout of your store. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, it's not psychic, right? It's not psychic. And if you don't have a big brand that it can research
Hmm.
online already, I mean, if you're Coca-Cola, that's one thing. But if you're a
Yeah.
small business, that it doesn't work that way. So I think that it's kind of crazy when people have this expectation that they've just found the easy button,
Hmm.
meaning the easy button where I don't have to think at all or do any work and I don't have to be involved and I can fire anybody who ever used to work for me in a content or copy capacity and
Yeah.
just have a machine replace them. And
Yeah.
that's a crazy idea and a dangerous idea, honestly.
I've seen people who think that or who don't understand. I think this is from OpenAI. They said this. They said AI is you, but faster. An augmented version of you.
Hmm.
And so it became an equation at that point. You multiplied by AI equals, production or result. And that's two pieces of the equation before the equals sign, right? And one of those pieces is you. And if you improve who you are or your knowledge, that's only going to improve your output using AI. It's going to become a much bigger lever. And
Hmm.
so I think, I think people ignore what they themselves are capable of in terms of what they should tell AI before expecting a result.
Yeah,
What do you tell those people? How do you help them? What's the prescription?
well, okay, so there's a quote. It's a strangely prophetic quote that
Mm,
came out long before any of this did, any of this AI stuff did. It's by a guy named Leo Chern. He
mm.
used to advise a lot of presidents. And to give you an idea of how far back this guy goes, he advised Eisenhower, right?
Okay, yeah.
On the quality and effectiveness of intelligence collection and analysis. And he is quoted as saying, the computer is incredibly fast, accurate, and stupid. Man is unbelievably slow, inaccurate, and brilliant. The marriage of the two is a force beyond calculation.
I'm
And that is,
copying that right now and pasting it into the chat.
yeah, that is something that, like, when I read that, I was like, wow, this guy was saying this way before the AI buzz came along. And it's so true, right? And so I often will quote him when I'm talking with people. And I'm like, look, this is a marriage between artificial intelligence and human intelligence.
Huge. And then it quickly becomes, right, based on that. Again, I see that as an equation. So if I'm interested in a superior result, Victoria says, I love that quote. One of our commenters, Julia says, wow. Yeah, thank you for that quote.
Mhm.
If I'm using that as an equation, then I'm going to remove my dependence on AI's intelligence, right?
Mhm.
Because it is quote unquote stupid.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to remove my reliance on my own speed and accuracy, right? And then I'm left with fast, accurate, and brilliant,
That's
which is
right.
what we want.
Bingo. I
The
feel like
best
I
of
need
both.
confetti right now.
I know, yeah. Where's the confetti? Everyone, hit the confetti emoticons for us.
Right?
Yeah, and I think notice how AI has has 2/3 of that, right? It
Hmm.
has the 2/3 of those items: the speed, the accuracy,
Hmm.
and we have only one of those
Sometimes,
items.
sometimes it has
Sometimes,
the
okay, yeah.
accuracy.
Ideally, it has that accuracy, and we can
Yeah.
lean on that, right? As
Hmm.
we put out more content that's actually, again, accurate, right,
Hmm.
and brilliant, to add our, as you described it, our sizzle on top of the AI's
Hmm.
um, output. I want to get to, if it's okay with you, I want to get to some Q&A because I see
Yeah,
some
sure.
questions rolling into the chat. And Julia had a great one. Um, she said, "Oh, I can't find it. Let's see. Oh, I'm curious if in her, Stephanie's experience with bigger companies like Fortune 500, maybe Dell or Deloitte or McKinsey, if she has encountered more anti-AI thinking. So more compared to smaller companies, or maybe more compared to 3 years ago."
Interesting question, Julia. Good question. And I would say I've seen both. It's very interesting to me because I have worked with, I just finished doing something for a Fortune 100 company. Excuse me, very pro AI, very let's go for it, let's do it, let's do it now. Um, on the flip side, I actually just submitted an RFP for a big project with a governmental agency. And prior to submitting the RFP, they had an open Q&A where we could talk with the deciding parties and get answers to our questions. And I said, what's your stance on AI? And they said, no, 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 we're very risk averse. I mean, surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But still, this is a huge, huge division of the government. I can't say what it is, but let's just say it's huge. And I'm like, come on, guys, get with the 90s. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So I've seen both. Some really big companies are like all in, and some of them are nope.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
Are they going to survive? Like, or are they going? Do they have deep pockets enough that hey, if they're even if they're slow to adopt, can they afford that slowness?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Um, I I would think that, choosing to be slow to adopt is choosing to fall behind.
Mm.
You know, choosing to fall behind is choosing to risk losing everything.
Yeah.
You think about there's other case studies of companies in different environments that chose to fall behind. Blockbuster chose
Yeah.
to fall behind. Um, there's so many examples of that. And if you're going to be slow to adopt, I get it. You got to weigh the risks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you spend too much time in analysis paralysis, everybody else is going to run forward in the race, and you're going to have to run real hard and real fast to catch up.
Yeah. I see that in Toyota. So I guess ironically, when I think Toyota, we all think dependability. Oh, this is a good brand, but I will tell you they are slow to adapt. Infotainment type of technology or push start technology. They were very slow. It wasn't until I think 2019 or 2020 that most of their models I think were push start at that point, whereas everyone else is like 2015 or 16. And I think theirs is in their specific case, right? They're calculated about it, and they have a healthy lag for that technology because they don't want something that's going to break in 5 years because their cars are going to outlast the tech that runs the car, and they don't want that, right? They don't want to
Right.
overbuild their cars relative to the tech, and so they wait until they feel that they have the right tech that'll actually last a long time, which for them is a challenge because their cars last a long time. And
Well,
so,
to speak to that,
yeah, okay, yeah,
I had um, I had a 2019 Lexus,
uh-huh,
and I'll tell you, the car was great. It's a great car, but it drove me nuts that I didn't have Apple CarPlay.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
it's
In
2019. What's
2019,
wrong?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And this is a luxury vehicle. Why do I not have this?
yeah,
Slow to
and
adopt. And guess
even
what?
now,
I
I don't
don't
even
have
know if
a car anymore. I got a
yeah,
different car.
yeah, different car, yeah. That's what people on Toyota forums are saying. It's like, look, I mean, it's for them, it's too slow. It's like they want whether it's a push start or back in the day a keyless entry, things that are pretty basic now, you know.
Mhm.
Or the Apple CarPlay right now. If you were to buy a 2019, just like you said, a 2019 Lexus, not that long ago,
Mhm.
and you want Apple CarPlay, you're gonna have to rip out the original, radio and all that stuff, put in an Apple CarPlay aftermarket thing. You're gonna have to be without your
Mhm.
car while they're installing. It's this whole thing. And it's
Right.
not worth it for most people.
It's a bad customer experience.
Yeah. And it cost them, right? Apparently, maybe it cost them. Maybe it was worth it to their bottom line or something. But yeah, it did cost them. No ignoring that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Someone named Guatemala Videos, welcome Guatemala Videos, says to grow a six-figure income stream around AI consulting, is Stephanie selling a course to her clients or offering in-house training, or neither, or both?
um, the answer is I could. I
I
do
believe
have
that.
I do have a course on creating a sales funnel using AI in and creating a full sales funnel in under 3 hours. So I
Oh
do have
man.
that. In terms of actually training other copywriters and content writers to build this six-figure income, that's not really a zone that I've lived in. But hey, let's talk. Maybe I
Yeah,
should.
yeah, yeah. So far, yeah, we all see that more than us about it. About AI. What are now when you're trying to get your I don't know if that's the right phrase, trying to get, but when you're talking to your clients about getting more into AI or integrating it into their workflows, what like what do they run into? What objections do you run into, or what challenges do they face when integrating AI into their strategies?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is the unknown, right?
Mm,
That's the biggest objection, the unknown, the fear of the unknown. I think challenges can come with things like, well, I use this CRM, and if I use X, Y, and Z AI technology, is it going to integrate the information in my CRM that I've had forever that I'm never leaving? You know what I
hmm
mean? So that actually happened earlier this week when I was talking with a client about a new technology that I was recommending to him. He's like, well, I've had HubSpot forever. I'm not going anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Now, fortunately, this technology has created webhooks, so it will integrate with that, right? But not all of them have.
hmm
Um, Other objections is, you know, taking the time to learn, right? You don't just get on these tools, most of them, anyways, and produce magic without investing the time to learn how to really use the technology well, right?
Yeah.
So, and time is like a most precious commodity in most people. So, somebody has to have the time as well as, the money, right? There's some tools that are free. Are the really good tools free? No, because the people who created the tools and run the tools need to get paid, right? So, there's also the objection of, well, it's another paid tool. Do I want to integrate that into our budget? So those are some real-time objections that come up.
Do they every business owner spends time, that one client of yours was heavily invested, more than just financially, but emotionally, in HubSpot, right? They're
Mhm,
used to it. They have systems around it. Um,
mhm.
if people are, it's understandable that people are hesitant to leave those systems that they spent months, even years perfecting and dialing
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Once they get AI into their workflows properly, are they able to stick with that strategy, or do you see them hopping around, iterating a little too much, or do they tend to like stick with it?
Meaning stick with the strategy of staying with HubSpot, or
Stick with AI. Once they implement AI, are they able to sustain that workflow?
I think so. Of course, it depends on their level of commitment and how much they're willing to, um, to work through the learning curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people, it's not that they can't, it's that they don't want to.
Yeah.
It's too much work, it's too much effort, it's too much time, all of those things. But I think that there are a lot of people that can do that and do that and are doing that.
Yeah. And more power to them, right? If they're able to stick with it. Like, of any innovation, you'd think AI would be like the most inviting,
Mhm.
enticing innovation that they can stick with, because it's designed to make their life easier. So I hope they see that. Um, this is one of my questions off to the side I have here, which I was wondering yesterday. Um, you have a lot of experience. You've seen so many things. Like you mentioned that you were talking about newspapers and internet, and um, of course now people's interactions with AI. What future AI developments do you see coming down the pipeline that will have the biggest impact 5, even 10 years out? Like, what do you think people are going to be leveraging AI in order to accomplish by then?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. Future AI developments that I see having the biggest impact. Well, I think everything is going to be steering toward voice.
Mm,
Um, so I think that you know I don't know if that's really the way that my brain works, is seeing the developments before they happen. I wish my brain worked more like that. I just more see like what's already, like what are we starting to see a little buzz about, a little bit of a rise in interest in now that's coming out that is gonna take off?
Mm-hmm.
And I think anything voice related is gonna take off, which hurts my heart a little bit
Yeah.
as a content writer, right?
Yeah.
But the bottom line here is that anything that people say, you still need scripts,
That's
right?
the thing. You still
You
need to
still need
write
scripts, and
those.
there's a
Yeah.
writer behind the scripts.
You and I were on a call the other day together preparing for this, and I mentioned my note taker because my note taker was trying to enter our room,
Yeah.
and but then after we met, it gave me an email. That's like one of the first times I've used my note taker. It gave me an email anyway about like everything we talked about, and then I got it. I understood it. And you were mentioning it on the call. You're like, no, you're gonna love it, and I do.
Yeah.
And it gave me everything that we talked about. And there's even like a button that says summarize and the whole thing. And so you talking about voice now is I'm thinking, what about like, outputting that voice, training it with a script like you're talking about. You could have meetings with your clients, and they would know this is happening, not like you're trying to fake them out, but like without even being there, you could have a face-to-face, virtual face-to-face meeting with your clients discussing their specific issues based on some algorithm or script that you make and help them. You could be doing that 5 times at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not 5 years down the road. Maybe that's 1 year down the road. Who knows?
Right. It's actually funny you mentioned that because there was a meeting that I was invited to this week that I had a conflict with. I couldn't attend because I had a different thing scheduled. And the person that was scheduling that other meeting said, "Why don't we make AI Stephanie and have her attend the meeting?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, well, we could, but I want you to be upfront and tell them it's AI Stephanie and not the real Stephanie.
Yeah.
So,
Be clear with them. Yeah. Because like you see this, I would count that as like black hat AI, right? It's like they think they're interacting with someone and they're not. Definitely like that phone call that, what was it, your family member got that phone call about the kidnapping thing. Holy cow. Like same kind of thing. Of course, very black hat, right? We don't want to even be anywhere near that, anywhere bordering black hat. We want our audience to know exactly what's going on. So I guess in that vein, audience, we are real. We are not AI personas here on this phone call.
You can like pinch me. Ow, that hurts.
Yeah. Well, you can like ask us a very specific question, and yeah, we're pre-trained to answer your question.
Right?
So we're real. We're real. So far, next time maybe we'll be AI personas. But one thing I wanted to ask also is, so how should, if a business has not adopted rather, AI at all, what do they do next? Like, what's their next move?
Okay. This depends on the size of the company. But are we talking about a small business? Are we talking about an enterprise? What are we talking about?
Like, let's say a small direct-to-consumer, like e-commerce, for example.
Okay. I would say the first thing that they need to do is figure out what are the biggest gaps in what they're already doing, where they're like, gosh, we're being inefficient here. How can we save more time and how can we save more money? So they may not know what the AI solution is, but they do know that there's a problem in the company in that this is taking too long. For example, writing a blog from scratch without AI, say you want to write a 2,500 word blog that's totally optimized. That's not going to happen in 30 minutes from your human brain. Okay. Yeah. That might take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, depending on what you're doing. I think it's looking at the activities you're currently doing and saying, is there a faster way? If there is, I want to explore it and know what it is. Okay. So enter content at scale, right?
Yeah.
There is something that can help you. So then you explore the tool and you test it and you see, does this really cut down on my time? Is it going to meet my quality standards? And if it is, then bing, 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 everybody wins, right? Mm-hmm. You get to save your time. You get to protect your quality standards, maybe even improve your quality,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's what I know. That's what Content and Scale does. I've been blogging forever. I have never written a content table of contents in my blogs. Okay, I've never
Hmm.
done that. Why? I don't know. It didn't occur to me.
Yeah.
Content at Scale, I go in and it creates it for me. I was like, well, isn't that fancy?
It's there already. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I want to ask you anything because I want to give you a moment, like at least a moment to impart any more like wisdom or knowledge that you think our audience should know before we close out.
I'm sorry, I coughed. Can you repeat
Oh,
your
sorry. Yes, I want to give you a moment to share anything else you think our audience should know before we close out the live.
I think that it's really important right now uh, to put your explorer hat on, right? And to be willing to look at things that may be unknown and maybe slightly uncomfortable and try to silence your inner naysayer, right? My inner naysayer, it's actually my story is similar to Julia's in many ways. Because I know that at one point, Julia also had kind of turned her nose up to AI. And then like a month later, she was like, AI is the king of the universe. And my story is similar. Um, if I had to do it over again, I would say push your naysayer aside and really be open to finding ways that this can help you. I honestly can say, as someone who's been writing copy for 28 years professionally, AI is the best thing that ever happened to me, best thing that ever happened to my company. If you had turned back the hands of time 15 months ago and told me I was going to say that, I would have laughed in your face. But it really is. And I know that because I have gone all in and embraced it and not, and silenced my inner critic. So that's what I would encourage you guys to do. John, I think you disappeared. All right. Well, I think our host has disappeared. I'm not sure if this is still broadcasting. I'm not able to see comments if you guys are chatting and whatnot. I'm sorry, I'm not able to see it. I'm going to let you guys go because I think there must be some sort of internet interference here. Thank you for letting me share with you today. I hope you're all coming to Content Hacker Live. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. So many great speakers. Thank you, Julia and John. I appreciate your time. Thank you to everyone who's listening. I'm going to sign off. See you later.
I apologize. It booted me off, and I'm still trying to find out why. So big technical difficulty. And I see Stephanie has left after imparting her wisdom. I mean, truly, we're grateful for her being here with us throughout today. So I just put up a banner, Content Hacker Live. We are in Austin in March. And I mentioned earlier, Stephanie will be speaking at Content Hacker Live at our event in Austin, Texas this March. So to shout out Stephanie, I do want to mention that she will be on stage there at $197 for the virtual pass, Content Hacker Live, $397 for the live, like in real life, actually there, general admission pass, $797 for the same thing except the VIP pass. And I do want to mention to all of our audience that tickets will double in price mid-February. So if you're going to go, buy now rather than after mid-February. And I'm very glad, again, thank you to Stephanie for being here. I'm glad she's excited to be speaking at Content Hacker Live. She has a lot happening between now and then. So she's going to release that human framework and publicize that. Very cool. And a bonus for our Content Hacker community members. So they get 10% off all Content Hacker Live prices. All those numbers I just mentioned, 10% off. That's you, Content Hacker members. So Content Hacker Live 2024, if you're not yet a member of contenthacker.com, head to contenthacker.com and click on Become a Content Hacker. Today, again, so glad Stephanie could be here with us today. Apologies for my apparent technical difficulty here. StreamYard gave me the boot. I actually had to restart the whole computer to get back on here. So happy to those of you who stayed all the way to the end. You're the real VIPs here. Stay with me on Monday for this series. We're still going here, so that'll be the third of my 4-part series. This today was the second of my 4-part series. On Monday, we have how to sell AI-driven SEO content services and close nearly every client with the founder of Direction.com, Chris Kirksey. So I will see you all there. Again, apologies for the awkward ending there. I know Stephanie was excited to share her wisdom there, and then I had that. I got booted somehow from the stream and then restarted and came back on. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. We will see you Monday.